King's Fall legendary weapons are craftable. King's Fall legendary weapons are pretty good. Let's talk about what kind of rolls I'm going to be crafting when I inevitably get all of the patterns. So what people have been getting excited about with the King's Fall weapons is not new perks, because there's not any, but the fact that a lot of perks that don't normally come in the first major column are now showing up, and we're going to see examples on basically every weapon. Before we start though, just a quick note on minor perks. Most of my suggestions end up being very similar weapon to weapon. I tend to push towards range in most cases on most weapons. That doesn't always mean it's the best option, but if you're just looking for something quick to pick, range is gonna work out. Every weapon, except for the fusion, can roll with accurized rounds, as an example. They all also have magazine perks, which are also fine to use if you think you have enough range already, or maybe they work with a different perk that you're going for. Every weapon has the same barrel perks too. I continue to like Arrowhead for recoil control, Fluted for handling, and Hammerforged for range, just as some examples. Kinetic weapons. Let's start with Smite of Merain, one of the most popular weapons from King's Fall back in Destiny 1. 390 RPM pulse rifle. I have a roll right now that is stats and one for all. Probably the only good weapon I've gotten so far in like 5 clears. Some interesting perks showing up in the first column include Demolitionist, which does occasionally show up here, but Focus Fury doesn't. That's for sure. We also have a new perk, Pugilist, which on primary weapons is going to give you 10% melee energy per kill, which definitely comes in handy with Arc 3.0. Think of it as the Demolitionist for melee. The second column has a lot to offer as well. Swash, Adrenaline Junkie, Firefly, One for All. There are a lot of good perk combinations to play with here, which makes it tough to suggest just one, and that's going to be a pretty common theme throughout this video. Demo and Adrenaline Junkie mesh well, but Demo is also just pretty good. Pugilist meshes with Swashbuckler, try saying that 5 times fast, but I personally don't think is as strong on a generic build. You gotta build for that. For you traditionalists out there looking for just reload and damage, Stats for All is the only reload perk that you can proc by yourself. Ensemble needs teammates, but Ensemble meshes really well with the origin trait on this weapon, which is Runneth Over, giving you extra bullets into your mag when you reload based on how many people are near you. Personally, I'm old-fashioned, and I think mainly about GMs when it comes to my weapon picks. High-level content, highest-level content, which means I'm going with Stats for All, One for All, but there are a ton of good options here. It just kind of depends on your build and your personal preferences. If you want to roll with Firefly, knock yourself out. It's a great perk. Defiance of Yasmin, the sniper, 90 RPM. Even with Anti-Barrier Sniper back in the game for a little bit, snipers still don't really impress me in PvE nowadays, mainly just being a desperation pick when you happen to be using like Trinity Ghoul or something, and Defiance does not really break the mold to me, although it sounds amazing to shoot, very satisfying. The main oddity here is the fact that you can roll Firefly in the first major column. That's neat. I don't think it really helps us that much, but it's neat. When it comes to PvE, I think I'd rather have Ensemble or even Lead from Gold or something, just ammo or reload stuff. Second column, I think of snipers as a boss or champion killing weapon. I want damage. That makes firing line the main attraction here. Maybe Focused Fury if you're near people a bunch and can overflow the magazine. At base, 4 shots in the mag, with 5 people around you, Runneth Over times 5, you will go up to a whopping 6 shots. It's not really that crazy. PvP-wise, I think you're looking at pretty traditional stuff here. Snapshot or No Distractions are the choices for me. And then second column, maybe opting for Opening Shot, Moving Target if that's your vibe. Vorpal maybe as well. Not super impressed here, but I will say this is a very satisfying weapon to shoot. Hopefully snipers make some sort of a comeback. Moving to energy weapons, let's look at Midha's Reckoning, the fusion, slow firing fusion. The main thing people are looking at here is the fact that you can get Reservoir Burst on this gun and then overflow the magazine via Runneth Over, giving you multiple shots of Reservoir Burst. And in my opinion, there is very little reason to go for much else on this fusion. Reservoir Burst is one of the best perks in the game, and you should seek to take advantage of it as much as possible in PvE. Golden Tricorn is something that I thought took too much effort to make happen in the past, but now with the crazy builds we can do and how much they revolve around ability usage, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world anymore, but it is still a bit of extra work to make happen. The same kind of goes for well-rounded. You're going to be using abilities a lot, it's good in theory, but I haven't really gotten to use it in practice, and it also doesn't really seem very popular at the moment. In the first column, since I'm chasing Reservoir Burst, I just want whatever the best in slot option is, which to me is Pugilist or Field Prep, although Unrelenting is also getting a really good amount of attention at the moment when combined with Reservoir Burst, since you can usually kill a bunch of stuff in one shot, which would proc Unrelenting. I'm personally not as wild about that, but if you are, then, you know, by all means, go for it. For PvP, you gotta remember that you're not gonna be seeing a ton of ammo for this thing, and I'm more or less under the assumption that I will only have 1 or 2 shots in the mag at any given moment. This means we want perks that work without needing a kill. At least, I think most people will. In the first column, that's Backup Plan, Cornered, Hipfire Grip. In the second column, that's Surrounded, Kickstart, Tap the Trigger, and Vorpal. I personally would rather have perks that let me fire my weapon faster, so Backup Plan and Kickstart are good ideas. Kickstart needs some finesse to pull off, though. Tap the Trigger is quite nice in its place, if you're not a big fan of that. Zaouli's Bane, the former Void Hand Cannon, now Solar, 140 RPM, can get explosive payload in the first column, a pretty rare sight. The rest of the first column perks are a more typical affair, although Opening Shot for PvPers is also pretty rare in this column. Nothing else really sticks out too hard for me personally. Considering how often we're able to use abilities, especially Solar, Well-Rounded has become a somewhat viable choice. The second column is loaded though. I'd say nearly every perk is viable depending on what you're doing. Pugilist and Demo going to be giving you energy on every kill. Explosive and Firefly I think is only available on Fatebringer until now. Incandescent is a huge favorite. One for All is a very solid pick for more endgame level stuff. Explosive Payload plus something is likely to be my choice. I don't think you can go wrong with Firefly, One for All, or Incandescent, although I am interested in some sort of Pugilist and Demo type role as well. On the PvP side of things, I think most people are going to push towards Opening Shot, Eye of the Storm. Gut Shot Straight, the new perk, does not appear to be performing too well. I've gotten word from the top PvP minds that they are not the hugest fans, and if the top PvP dudes are not able to hit hand cannon shots with this perk, then who among us mortals are going to do it? You know what I mean? People that I know are really buzzing about this hand cannon, and it's the first new 140 RPM solar hand cannon since Ancient Gospel from Garden of Salvation, which had a decent perk lineup. Annual Skate also came back in Season 15, but with not as great of a perk pool for PvE, which is why I think so many people are excited about Zaouli's Bane. Doom of Chelchis, the Void 180 RPM Scout, also has some interesting stuff on it. But the thing that people are gravitating towards right now is Firefly and Dragonfly. I do think that this will end up being less of a gimmick, like the whole triple tap 4th times Trials Scout Rifle, and more of an actual viable thing. But it's not something I'd bring into endgame level content, personally. But it's certainly a fun option. As for what I'm bringing into endgame level stuff, Stats for All, One for All, still a great choice. You got Explosive Payload in the first column. You got Firefly in the first column. You got Adaptive Munitions. Anti-Barrier Scout's a choice this season, so that's not too shabby. Second column has Frenzy to pair with Explosive Payload or Firefly. Frenzy's always a good choice. Focused Frenzy has a bit more life here because of the nature of how you'll be using a Scout. A lot of higher chances to actually proc it, and because of Runneth Over. But it's not something that I plan on pursuing. Me, I'm crafting either a Stats for All, One for All, or an Explosive Payload Frenzy type deal, mainly focused, again, on endgame content. Firefly, Dragonfly will be fun, though. PvP, perhaps Rangefinder is not as needed as I'm imagining. Could honestly go Vorpal or Explosive Payload with Eye of the Storm as an option in the second column. Finally, Qullim's Terminus, now a stasis weapon, used to be solar, machine gun, slow firing, 360 RPM. Another weapon that features killing tally. It's slowly coming back, but you only get 44 shots in the mag without a magazine perk. Just something to keep in mind, unless you happen to be near teammates on a regular basis to proc Runneth Over. a very good option, perhaps one of the best options in the second column. First column, I'm looking at, again, stats for all, dynamic sway reduction, heating up, maybe ensemble if I'm doing a lot of group play to mesh with runneth over. I'm not interested in much else though. Second column, again, is pretty stacked. You got Firefly in here, Headstone for the stasis builds, Focused Fury is viable if you're getting extra shots in the mag. Firing Line's okay, but again, very teammate dependent perk, and we're still not really using machine guns for boss damage, at least not this one. Killing Tally, again, quite good. I'm probably going for stats and Killing Tally, but heating up, I think, will also have its moments. That is what I'm crafting from King's Fall in like a month from now once I start getting some of the patterns. I think these are the roles you should be looking out for. All the weapons seem quite good. Smite of Merain is very nice, definitely my favorite so far, but I've heard very good things about Zaouli's Bane too. Hopefully I get a decently rolled one of those sometime soon. I think every single one I've gotten has been pretty bad. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.